the stock market, meaning companies, new highs.
I'm not fucking leaving.
The show goes on.
They're nuts. They know nothing.
An online network called Internet.
Well, it's very hip to be on the internet right now. Welcome, my degenerates. The rest of your life starts right now on Market Mania. This is the no bullshit show covering all financial markets from Bitcoin, darknets, predicted, of course, and right here, the largest casino in the world, we focus on the U.S. stock market. I'm your host, Brian Micon, financial genius, Bitcoin class of 2011, and a poker player. Joining me are my fellow degens, Brett Ritchie, and replacing Matt Glantz today, we have Bart Hanson back on the show. The whole thing here is put together by Tony the producer, and this is Market Mania. It is one hell of a day in the markets. We're going to get started right away today. And it looks like Bart Hanson was right. He was right, ladies and gentlemen. If you joined us on the Election Mania special, you would know that this man, Bart Hanson, was right. What are we going to do? We're going to play the clip first? Is that what we're going to do? Yeah, play the clip.
Enthusiasm. I don't really think that there are sharps behind like the politics where I wish I had kept more capital open. Like I left all my capital, like in all my Bitcoin, I bet it right off before the election started. But if I had this to do over again, I would have kept like 50,000 to see if there was some sort of line movement like this where I could have gotten bind at like plus 395 like 45 minutes ago and known that Arizona, like Maricopa County, was like looking good for Biden. I haven't seen any data that it suggests anything between Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota that changes anything, or Pennsylvania, besides the fact that Trump is obviously looks like he's going to win Ohio. So you can look at like demographics.
All right, that was Bart just not even shaking as the odds tipped way in Trump's favor early on election night. Bart, why were you so calm and cool? How was that possible?
Well, I wish I had sort of put it all together before election day because the scenario had really been played out and it had been talked about specifically on the 538 podcast too, where the northern states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they count differently. They were counting the mail-in ballots differently than the southern states like Florida and even sometimes like Ohio. So what ended up happening was sort of a perfect storm where Trump carried the South. He's going to win Florida right off the bat. By the way, one of the incredible things about Florida, I pulled some data. One of the key counties in Florida, which is Miami-Dade County. So Trump did a 22.1 point flip in Miami-Dade County. Hillary had won Miami-Dade in 2016 by 30 points, and Biden only won it by 7 points. That's going to be an incredible story with the Latino vote. But anyway, so because of that, Florida's going to Trump. You know, some of the southern states in Ohio looking like going to Trump. And then people look at the northern returns with only like 10% of the vote counted, mostly in-person vote. And Trump's up by like 15 points, but there hasn't been any real data to sort of support the kind of narrative that he's winning up in those states. And they ended up not winning because none of the mail-in votes were allowed to be counted until election day because it's state to state. And I kind of knew that, but I didn't put it together. So like I said, if I had to do over again, and Nate Silver actually came out and said he didn't really ever think that Biden was probably more than a dog at the worst point on election night. And that's kind of what
Richie,
I said.
What do you think about that? Did you think at the beginning, because I had already written off all the bets when Bart's like confidently saying he wished he had capital to deploy?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, he said it on the show. We were all kind of like, it felt like a replay of 2016 where Trump got the lead and was just going to run away with it. And it makes sense, especially looking at the sort of mail-in ballots. Obviously, everything in retrospect makes a lot of sense. But Bart was there saying, hey, I wish I had money to fire at these prices. And people did, by the way. There are people that tweeted at us and Bart saying, like, thanks, I bet him plus 350 because of the show. Interestingly enough, though, Trump's still trading at about 10% in some places, but even 8% in some other markets, which I find to be interesting. I think part of it could be explained by just a liquidity issue. If I bet Biden, I can either just sit and wait to get paid, or I can buy out for 93% return right now, and then I'm holding some long shot on Trump also, that if in case I do get screwed there, I hit a big number on Trump. Also, I think people are kind of delusional.
About that, Bart?
Well,
what do
I
you
just
think about that? 10%
pointing
right now.
really quickly to predict it, though, it's kind of not a real market in the sense that I was talking about this before the show. Yes, there's going to be people that are profit takers. They don't want to wait to have, Biden graded at like $1, right, which is 100%. But the predicted market only allows for 5,000 contracts per market. So you can't even get in on that market now. So it's not like the public has access to that market. Kind of a predicted hack that my friends and I thought about for next time is that you could buy one share of one market at like 50 cents. And right now, because you're in on that contract, you would be able to freely trade. So you could do that across all the markets, just buy one share so that you have access to these profit takers now and sell them at long lays for a profit. But you can't get in if you don't have a contract right now. So that's not really reflective, I don't think.
Tony, pull up that FTX
market.
Well,
Betfair, he's still trading at about 15-1. I don't think we have the Betfair map, but FTX series 10%. Betfair, he's about 15-1 Trumps, and that's got millions in liquidity. I mean, there's been probably 100 million bet in that contract since the election. So there are people, I think, again, you have to say a fair amount of that is people that are just taking the liquidity, taking the quick profit. And then there's been always some sort of delusional Trump vote out there, although personally, I don't think they were that delusional this time around. I think this was a close election. But right now, he's looking at what is he trying to hit? A multi-state parlay of getting these overturned, from my understanding, which seems almost impossible.
I mean, you can get down serious money. You can short this market on FTX. You can go long with leverage. I mean, so this is fairly liquid, as I understand it. And I mean, Bart Hanson, I mean, what are you looking for here if you're betting Trump right now? This has to be a crazy legal wrangling.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if I was laying the other side, like if I was laying serious money, I'd actually have to look at the language in the way that these bets are being graded. Like my buddy Dave Tuckman put out something that he wanted to lay like Trump at 15-1 on Twitter yesterday, and then we were talking about it, even just with individuals, and what's the language behind it? Like, what is the definition of winning? I would say probably the language should be whoever wins the Electoral College, because that really is the way that things are graded. Meaning, so if Trump goes through the courts and he wins, what that means is that he will kind of win the right to have the state legislatures appoint electors based upon the fact that their state actually voted for Biden in the popular vote for state. That's really what the court wrangling is all about.
This is actually, I mean, to me, it looks like if he's at 10% right now, that means that, I mean, it's this one also, the FTX market is Trump February. So if he's president in February, thus, after the January 20th or so inauguration. And so, I mean, and it's almost like a dictator market.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right. So assuming Trump does win, which seems very likely, we do have some questions about what a Biden administration is going to look like in terms of stability within the market and things like that. He's obviously talking to Google's Eric Schmidt, which could potentially bring some privacy issues into play. It seems like a Biden administration is going to be good for big tech, sort of rich get richer type scenario. Bart, what do you make of what Biden is going to mean for the markets?
Well, I mean, I think that Biden's going to be great for the markets in the beginning while we still have COVID around, because no matter what the COVID deniers saying, this could look like it could be much, much worse than it really was in March or April. So if you had Trump winning and then him just basically ignoring it, and then you have states basically have to shut down again, would we see a crash when the federal government is basically just ignoring it? I mean, there was news out of Utah where they're going to be doing sort of a shutdown and a lockdown. And I think with Biden coming into play, you don't have the chance of like them putting out some sort of bullshit like vaccine that hasn't been tested correctly just to gain public approval. The uncertainty on that, Biden is going to be good for business because he's going to be able to handle, I think, the COVID crisis properly. And that's the number one driving factor right now, I think, in the short term.
Plus, a stimulus seems likely to a bigger stimulus under Biden, although with the Republican Senate, that may not be quite as big, but that obviously would be good for the market in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you got vaccine stocks pumping today. You got the Biden administration having the tough, this is weird. It's like you can't get the transition money because the girl won't sign. And so now we're sort of in that kind of weird place. Trump at 10%. I don't know. Biggest news today that rocked the markets. I don't know how much stock market you play, Bart Hanson, but shit was flying earlier today, right on the open, due to this vaccine news stock. Brett, what do you got?
Yeah, so Pfizer, obviously a reputable blue chip pharmaceutical company, says that their vaccine returns are really promising. It shows 90% effectiveness, and the market absolutely flew. I think that, we'll get to that in the next topic, but people loved it. And so it kind of actually handcuffed Biden, because Biden had some announcement about how he was going to take on coronavirus with his administration, and he kind of got front run by this Pfizer news. I wonder how this election would have played out if this came out last Monday. My guess is the same, but any sort of variance would obviously help who lost, which is Trump. And so I do wonder if people would say, well, with this vaccine, I'm a little safer to bet Trump because my biggest concern was his botching of COVID. So now that might give them more leeway to vote for Trump. So it's weird kind of timing that doesn't really help either guy, because it's too late for Trump, and then it kind of handcuffs it. Front ran Biden's, here's what I'm going to do to affect COVID. No one cares about what Biden's going to do now. People are looking at Pfizer.
Do you think that was a decision that Pfizer actually made, that they I was thinking about that this morning, that they were not going to release this until after the election, or it was just a weird coincidence?
I haven't researched it enough. I would say I wouldn't be surprised either way. Like, my initial thought was weird coincidence, but I could see if they just don't want to be piss off half the country, kind of either way the election fell. If they drop that ahead of time, the losers might blame Pfizer. And it's like, they're not, Republicans buy shoes too. Like Jordan allegedly said, they're not in the business of, they're trying to sell medicine, not determine elections.
Well, this has been an incredibly crazy day in the market. I don't know if you guys are really watching it very close. Cruise stocks through the roof. Things that have obviously been decimated by COVID, on the news of some promising vaccine. I mean, this is, and then of course, my man Zoom, we called it short a few times here, but Zoom, I think Glantz got the last one in, and I think Glantz got that in on Friday, actually. And
4 days ago. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, Zoom down 16% or so for the day. What do you got on this? Are you firing market, Bart?
I don't usually fire individual stocks. I'm more of a sort of an indexing guy. I mean, obviously I noticed the big sort of uptick, but I just think that individual stocks are a lot of variance. So
are you an S&P and forget about it guy?
I mean, as long as you can get in with like the lowest fees. I mean, I am not a professional trader. I think with the Warren Buffett bet, it's sort of proven that, and this is why I always talk about people who, there's always this great debate that I have with people, even though I just bought a house, about say like home ownership versus rental, where I think that renting is a really good spot for a lot of people, because if you take that money and just stick it in an S&P index fund with like basically zero fees now, you are passively returning like 7 to 8% annualized. And then people are like, I want to buy in real estate. I want to do like rental properties and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, but that now you're actually doing some work. You know what I mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, kids out there, listen to Bart Hanson. I mean, he hasn't missed yet since he's been on Market Mania. I mean, that is great advice. S&P and forget about it. Passive 8-ish%. I mean, if you got free capital, and you're looking to fuck it off, might as well dump it in a low fee index fund like Bart Hanson says, and just, take your return. And I don't know, Brett, what do you think? Is that Robinhood account ever going to just be all S&P and just turn it off for years?
Maybe at some point, but this is the Robinhood run up, that account. So we're not at that stage now. We're trying to fire, and this was a great day, depending how you view it, but it was a really good day for volatility. A ton of these tech stocks, these really high flyers during the COVID boom, took a huge hit, and a lot of more traditional stocks soared. I mean, AMC theaters went up 80%, right? Some Robin Hooders were in on theaters waiting on news like this. And so there were some huge gains to be made today. I think, honestly, to me, it was an overreaction. I know everyone's desperate for some good news about COVID, but Pfizer, who is working on it, they say it's promising early returns. Does this mean like they gained 20 billion to their market cap? Pfizer, it's the highest the stock market's ever hit. A ton of stocks are hitting their all-time highs, their biggest jump in a day. It's not the vaccine yet. I think it is a bit of an overreaction. And the flip side of that is if you do like some of these high-flying tech stocks, remote work stocks, that's still the future. This sort of remote economy is still growing regardless of COVID.
So the interesting thing about this Pfizer vaccine and like that bump in the market is that like, so let's say Pfizer's the one that's going to mass produce this vaccine, right? This is sort of in the public interest of society. So do they get to set the price of what the vaccine is, even if the government is going to be paying for it? Or does the government can say, no, it's in the public good, whatever executive order, whatever law from whatever year covers this? Are they actually going to be more profitable because they produce the vaccine if they wouldn't be able to set the price if it was in the open market? I
believe the government has a price already. They're getting 100 million doses for 2 billion or something like that. I'm not sure about if they can still gouge the market and charge whatever they want, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure the government already has a deal for like X dollars for Y vaccines in place.
Moving along, it looks like, I mean, Bart, I know you're firing Bitcoin, right? You're a big fan of this thing?
Well, no, I mean, I was going to ask about Bitcoin. I've never really been an investor in Bitcoin. I've used it for a lot, but I don't tend to really hold it. And maybe Brett and you got Mike on, you can speak to this. Obviously, there was a spike, probably having to do with PayPal, but obviously you've seen Bitcoin at 3,000 within the last 2 years. Now it's up to 15,000. For you guys that are holders, like, how do you sort of define Bitcoin like as an investment if you're never selling it? And I go back to the whole altcoin,
long
bubble.
And strong, baby. Long and strong.
I mean, the altcoin bubble of late 2017, early 2018, if I have the years right, people were like, oh, I'm a millionaire. This thing went from like 10 cents up to $20. But I was like, well, if you haven't sold it yet and it's going to crash back down, which it did, are you worth that money? Like, when do you just intend to hold it forever and never transfer it out to fiat?
I knew people that did that. I knew people worth tens of millions during that altcoin boom that were bust in late 2018. So they just held all the way up and all the way down. I'd also know people that sold out for like a really nice profit. So now I do think Bitcoin is different than the altcoins, where it's really gone for that digital gold narrative. It's established that, in my opinion, it's by far the chip leader on the race to become digital gold. It's gone away from payments, and so I think
15.2 right now. And Tony was on this. This is an article today, and if you guys were listening to Market Mania last week, Tony was deep in the Google Trends. Actually, I wonder where they got this story from. Tony was deep in the Google Trends. He did not see much public search for Bitcoin. And sure enough, it was skyrocketing and he thought it was smart money. Tony, you were correct.
That's right.
Do you guys buy into the fact that, it's a manipulated market though, too?
Oh, for
Not
sure.
really. It's pretty, I mean, it's manipulated to some extent, but it's
supply demand.
Quite liquid at this point. It's too big now. I would worry about some of the smaller.
For
sure, that's a topic for another day. I just gotta say, this is smart money getting into Bitcoin, not retail investors. So, thanks for the shout out. What's that?
Do you work for this publication? Because this is deadly close to what you said on the air the other.
I don't work for them, but I'm entertaining offers. But anyway, you guys have a good show. We'll talk to you out on the other end here.
Square MicroStrategy sailed it into Bitcoin the last month or two here, and then I don't know. I mean, Tony really did hit this. You can look back at the Market Mania show. He's checking the Google Trends, and we didn't see it, but the flows were there. And Bart, you're getting paid out in Bitcoin, right, for some of these huge bets that you made?
No, no. All the sites converted to dollars too. I mean, okay. I just want to transition really quick, and the same thing about grading really quick, because I know we don't have much time, but a lot of these sites haven't graded many things. Certain slam dunks, but that's going to be kind of the narrative here too, where the national hasn't been graded anywhere. Some of these states haven't really been graded. But in terms of like Bitcoin and like taxation, once you send the Bitcoin to a site, they transfer it to dollars and they send it back to you in dollars. So the price of Bitcoin doesn't matter if you're a bettor. You're also not hit with Bitcoin tax, like the gain. But one of the tweets that I made out was some of these sites are going to be making out like absolute bandits because they had money come in early to mid-October. Bitcoin went up by 50%. You as the consumer, you don't see the fluctuation because you're going to get back the same dollar amount, it's just less Bitcoin, but they are the ones that actually gain by the Bitcoin going up. Obviously, it could have gone either way, but this is the most heavily betted event in the history of the world. So it went up by 50%. They're going to fucking make out like crazy depending on how much they hold and how much they sell off.
And on that note, the safety glasses are coming on, Bart Hanson. Brett Ritchie's locked and loaded because it is the do your own research, not investment advice, Market Mania pick of the day. That's right. We don't pull punches here, Bart Hanson. Brett Ritchie, get right into it. What is your pick of the day?
My pick of the day is Overstock, OSTK. I am doing this in honor of Matt Glantz. This is one of those stocks. It dropped 20% earlier this month or in the last 30 days. It now dropped 20% today based on this vaccine news. I think that's way too extreme of a correction. I know Matt Glantz knows what he's talking about, or at least he does a really good job of pretending. He's been banging the Overstock drum for a while. It dropped 20% today. These are the kind of dips that I, as a representative of a Robinhood trader, love to seek out. Go buy Overstock.
Will we see that in the Robinhood run-up?
I already went all in on Overstock on Robinhood right before the show. I sold off whatever the other stock was. I'm already all in on Overstock.
It's a true simulation, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have that update tomorrow. Bart Hanson, you're on Market Mania today. What is your pick of the day?
So my pick of the day, and I'm not sure exactly at this price, but I want to bring it into sort of like public narrative, is a stock called Trade Desk, which is TTD, which is on NASDAQ. The reason why I got in on it very early at about $100, and now it's trading at $800. It went down to $150 during the COVID crash in March. So it's up by almost 6x since the last 6 or 7 months. And every single quarter, it beats its earnings. On Friday, it went up by 25%. I have an old high school buddy who's like the number 3 at the company. So I've seen this company go up, and he probably had like stock options at like $2, and he's probably worth, I don't know, 9 figures now, 8 figures. But it's a demand side platform, advertising tech company where now companies want, they want the best value for their dollar. They go to Trade Desk. Trade Desk places their ads in connected media, not just TV. It's really one to watch. It's just taken off. It's an unbelievable story of a tech stock. TTD.
You have it right there. It's up on the screen. Everybody can see it. Bart Hanson, thank you for that pick of the day. It's great to have you on again. Man, that was so right on election night that they just had to do it twice. They just need him back. And honestly,
what about your pick of the day, Mike Hahn?
Oh, that's right. Hat's still on. And we're going short Beyond Meat. And I mean, to be fair, Nikola too tonight. Both will report earnings today after the bell. Nikola short. I mean, I'm dancing with the girl that brought me here. It just seems like bullshit. It seems like a bullshit company. I don't know. I like to gamble. Beyond Meat, Nikola, earnings today after the bell. Short both. Fuck them. All right. Now, we do appreciate everybody, all the viewers out there that tune in daily for Market Mania. The election is still not decided, and civil unrest still possible. We don't know exactly how this is going to run. But during these troubled times, I like to look to the modern day poets of our time, such as Devin the Dude. And on the What a Job track, with a great verse by Three Stacks there too, he said, and I quote, "Rolling up another swisher, listening to the beat again, drinking but we concentrating, smoke another sweet again, steadily rewinded, trying to make some hot shit. Oh, what a job this is." Like and subscribe to Market Mania right here on YouTube, and go ahead and follow us at Market Mania Show on Twitter. We will see you tomorrow, if there is a tomorrow. But for now, it's lights out.
Come on, I never sleep. if I don't have my medicine. I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. I never sleep if I don't have. I never sleep. I never sleep if I don't have my medicine.
Time to right the wrong. So your hands in the air if you like the song. If you're going over there, take it twice as long. Last time ain't talking about Tylenol. Oh, I bet you'd like to know. You can come around the way if you're trying to go. If you want to switch lanes for a pot of gold or a domino, out of control. The usual. Get mad cause I'm looking at your girl.
Switch it up.
I do it so much louder than everything you've heard. Everybody heard, got the word that the world wasn't turning. Act like you're in a jury. However, turn it where I would turn it. Can't lie like it's Mississippi burning. Don't act like you're in a daze. I imagine should've looked the other way. Couldn't clear space on my mind. Was afraid of the time. Strobe lights like in the moonlight. I'm in the